Arcane is bad, is what I would have said prior to this challenge. However, I have since been enlightened, coerced if you will, to the dark side. See, I managed to make a lot of people angry when I said nobody cared about Arcane. Of course, I know Bleed is very good, but I never dedicated any real estate to the Arcane stat and instead treated Bleed as just a passive. But I wanted to see what all the fuss was about and set out to beat Elden Ring and its DLC by only leveling Arcane. If you enjoy, consider subscribing to not miss more in the future. Thank you all so much for the recent support. It has been so nice, I really do appreciate it. Upon creating my character, I started off with the Bandit class as it offers a pretty good stat spread and has the highest base Arcane of any class with 14. Entering Limgrave, now I can begin the allotted Elden Ring gathering journey of any run. Heading north, I talk to a mysterious woman who offers me a Honda Accord.
I offer you an Accord.
It says an Accord has 192 horsepower, but this only has 1. Feeling a bit scammed, not gonna lie. On my way through Limgrave, I stop and talk to Yura and then go kill Nereus? The guy with the cool dagger who kindly drops my first weapon, the Reduvia. This bad boy requires somber smithing stones, so I get a somber one from the Scarab Beetle near the Artist Shack, and then progress Blythe's quest to summon him in the Bloodhound Knight fight to get a somber 2. I also grab one half of the Decahedron medallion in Fort Height before heading to the Weeping Peninsula to face off against the Erdtree Avatar for the Opaline Bubble Tier. A very easy fight that I definitely first tried. With early setup complete, it's time to take on my biggest hater, Margella.
Bow tarnished. In search of the Elden Ring. Emboldened, a flame of ambition.
This shit was so cool, bro. Such a cool cutscene. Oh my god. Look at him. He's so cool. Alright. The Reduvia's special skill Bloodblade does crazy buildup and can proc bleed in just 1 or 2 hits. A neat addition is that if you are up close and use the skill, you can hit the boss with the actual blade for additional damage. This paired with the bleed is a deadly combo that works wonders. The damage may be good, but I am not. Okay. And with a few attempts, Margit finally goes down, but things were off to a pretty rocky start, I'm not gonna lie. Mother. Oh my goodness. Okay. Margit marked access to Stormville, where I grabbed the Hook Claws, a very strong weapon with innate bleed, and the Claw Talisman for increased jump attacks. Not much else to do besides take on Godrick the Big Shafted. Kind of embarrassing to say I struggled against Godrick, but bro had it out for me this run. Safe to say, my first impressions of Arcane were a bit lackluster. Am I just a stagger Andy? Can I only beat bosses with big heavy weapons? I mean, at least the bleed was nice. Like a true Souls player, I changed absolutely nothing about my approach and just kept trying. Hey, look at that. What do you know? It worked. Entering Liurnia marked access to a few new items that would come in very handy. First, I made my way through Caria Manor and defeated Spirit Loretta. Behind the fight is the Three Sisters, where I encounter Ranni, who doesn't know who I am. Even video game women forget about me. Around here, you can also find Pydia, who sells the Ripple Blade, one of the few arcane scaling weapons available. This weapon does not have any status buildup, but grabbing the Blood Flame Blade incantation coats my weapon, giving it fire damage and passive bleed for 60 seconds. I also went back to Limgrave to grab the Dragon Communion Seal from the Fringe Folk Hero's Grave. This seal gets S tier scaling with Arcane, which doesn't really apply as I do not use many damaging incantations, but it was still nice to have. Also in Liurnia is the village of the Albinorics, where I make like Snape and kill Albus hiding in a pot. He drops one half of the Halictree medallion for later. Before entering Hogwarts, I must find the key. The key is found on one of the scholars behind a dragon. See, look, this is what happens when you go outside. It's why I choose to stay indoors. Can't be having any close calls after all. While in the academy, I make my way past more scholarly individuals and interrupt a large cat trying to catch up on last week's lecture. We don't like books around here, so with my newly acquired Ripple Blade, I made quick work of the ferocious feline. It was doing pretty good damage and the attacks were sizable, but to keep things interesting, I decided to change things up and use the Hook Claws to face the beloved Footmother. With the goal of one cycling her first phase, surely the Hook Claws would be enough. This is where I ran into a problem. I died. The damage was there, but I needed more, because everyone knows more damage is more gooder. Stopping in the Stillwater Cave, I find a lost Cleanrot Knight that drops the Winged Sword insignia. This boosts consecutive attacks up to 10%. Now we should be good. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Her second phase was a bit more annoying because she wouldn't stop running away. Every hit was met with a reposition and more magic spam, which is a problem when any one attack can nearly kill me. Luckily, the claws were carrying more than enough and the damage was doing well. Finally, after way too much stall and every summon imaginable, Rennala succumbed to the severe lacerations and, well, so did I. Just had to get one off on me, huh? Come on. Come on. Give it to me. Please. No, quit talking. Oh, yes! That might just be the luckiest boss kill I've ever gotten. One more second and I would have had to redo it. Perhaps the luck increase Arcane gives is more than just in game. With Rennala very closely defeated and Ranni surely upset with me about beating up her mom, I decide to make it up to her by killing her brother. This family has some very weird dynamics. But hey, I'm just following orders. Don't shoot the messenger. To start the Radahn festival, I must progress Ranni's questline further by heading underground into the Shifra River to talk to Blythe about Nokron. He tells me to talk to Celivis, who might take the crown for freakiest Elden Ring character. I mean, what is he really trying to do with all those puppets? He gives me a letter for Selen. If you know, you know. She explains how Radahn is holding back the stars and needs to be defeated for Ranni to progress her quest. See, I told you, I'm just following orders. Finally, I can now enter Florida and grab the other half of the Decahedron medallion as well as Radaghan's sword seal from Fort Feroth, a very important talisman that makes stat requirements that much more manageable. While I am here, I put my bleed to good use and defeat Grail for runes to power level my arcane and 5 dragon hearts. Before taking on Radahn, I wanted to use something other than bleed. With Radahn's low resistance to poison and rot, I grabbed the venomous fang from the abandoned cave, the lifesteal ash of war for occult scaling, as well as the rot breath dragon incantation from the Dragon Communion Church. Making my way to the festival, the homies and I locked in to take on Radahn. So it turns out you don't actually have to summon Blythe and Alexander to progress their quest. Regardless, summons or not, the fight with ramen noodles is relatively the same. I would start the fight by running away to skip the arrow phase, and with good RNG, Radahn would jump off his horse where I could position myself under him, allowing me to get off one full cast of stank breath. The garlic I ate must have been very strong because it had Radahn taking crazy damage. See, you can call this cheese or easy mode, but I like to call it tactical torrent gameplay. And with Arcane being the focal point, I am just using my resources. Let the rot and the summons do the work while I skillfully avoid the fight. Entering phase 2, Radahn gets tired of swinging at us little ankle biters, so he decides to try something new. Where'd he go? Wow. Yeah, that's one way to handle the situation. On a better attempt, I was smart enough to actually avoid the Radahn-sized meteor flying in at Mach 4, and this is where the real fun began. Phase 2 was a bit more tricky as the opening to cast Rot Breath was not as obvious, but again, with the help of Blythe, he took aggro and I could breathe my stank breath all over Radahn from a distance. Also, the breath attack has deceptively long range. I did not think it would reach from where I was standing. Sadly, I can only cheese so much, and once Radahn realized I was the one causing a storm, he got very angry and wouldn't stop chasing me.
Why are you running?
Okay, well, when he does that... Luckily for me, he made the mistake of giving me an opening where I swung on poor Leonard until the Star Scourge was no more. Let's go! Let's go! Radahn is dead. Absolute cheese. It's okay though. If you use Arcane, it's not like you're playing the game for real anyways. That might rile some people up, but I have no control over what my past self has said. You know, people change. I'm not the same man I was before this run. Arcane is a beloved playstyle and I have no qualms with it. It's not cheese, I'm just using what the game offers. With Daniel defeated, the stars are able to move again. One crashes into Limgrave, opening a large crater that will come in handy later on. Instead, I head to Altus Plateau where I acquire 2 new weapons, the Nagakiba and Eleanor's Poleblade after a very close fight with her. Returning to the Starfall crater, I progress through Nokron where I face the toughest boss in the entire game, myself. God, just look at him, an absolute powerhouse. Never mind, he is not built for this. Beyond the Metyr fight, I can find another city where I grab the Black Wet Blade, a very important item for this run. It unlocks the blood, poison, and occult affinities, with the occult giving very good arcane scaling to most weapons. This will take this build to the next level. I also return to Caelid where I take on Commander O'Neill in a very fun and engaging way, once again not using cheese but rather simply using the tools offered to me. Hey, I never said I had to play fair. The needle he drops can be used to progress Millicent's questline, which will come in handy soon enough. Keeping up with the cheese, I mean tactical gameplay, I grab the Poison Mist incantation, which oddly enough doesn't use arcane, but it's okay, it fits the bill. From the get-go, I knew of one use where this would come in very handy. Making my way through Altus with enough great runes to enter the capital, I could now fight the Draconic Tree Sentinel, but we all know I wouldn't actually fight him. Instead, engaging in a little stealth, I sneak past him. He does not see this coming. That's it, we've peaked. Oh boy, that is not a lot of damage. Looking back, I don't know if the time investment was worth it. I think I spent about 20 minutes just recasting Poison Mist, and to add insult to injury, I ran out of mana, so I had to finish him off with a couple butt taps. With DTS down, Leyndell was open, but before making my way through the capital, there was a bit more setup required. In the Sage's Cave, I grabbed the Raptor's Black Feathers, which boost jump attacks to pair with the Claw Talisman. I then headed to the Shaded Castle where I got the Valkyrie's Prosthesis for Millicent and faced off against Elimer in an epic duel of the ages. Except you can just break his his AI and he would just do the same shield slam over and over again. Anyways, he dropped the Mariah's Executioner Sword. I couldn't wield it just yet, so I stopped off in Limgrave for the Strength Knot tier for an additional 10 strength. Now we are ready for Leyndell. Using my epic gamer skills, I had to show off the cool skip you can do. Want to see me do it again? Okay, there we go. I think going around would have been easier. There are two very important items here in the capital. The Ritual Shield Talisman and my beloved Starfists. Oh, how I could not live without my balls. With that, we are ready for Golden Shower Godfrey. Because Godfrey is a shade that can't be bled or poisoned, the Executioner Sword was a perfect use case as it still packed a punch even without relying on any arcane. Godfrey is pretty telegraphed and I have gotten pretty good at fighting him, so the fight wasn't too difficult. Get him. Yeah. Let's go. Godfrey down. Easy. Easy. With the capital almost complete, there was one man who stood in my way, Morgott. I had a plan for him this time. At the top of the windmill village, there is a Godskin apostle who can easily be dealt with by sneaking around the windmill and putting him to sleep. Knocking him out and taking his lunch money, he gave me the Godskin peeler. Reloading the area after having given Millicent prosthesis has her show up here, where I must do something I really don't want to. Oh, Millicent. I'm so sorry. Look away, everyone. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, it hurts. Okay. Her noble sacrifice was not in vain, and Millicent's prosthesis is one of the best talismans you can get for a multi-hit build. I am not done yet, as I must head into the sewers, and while I'm here, I get Mohg Shackle as well as a Sombra 7. Facing off against Esker and his rabid dogs might be top 5 worst experiences in this game. Thankfully, Rot Breath helped with the dogs, and the claws were enough to finish him off, giving me the Lord of Blood's exaltation. Okay. One last stop. Having progressed Vare's quest for the Pureblood Knight's medal earlier, I went and once again skillfully and strategically obtained the white mask. Finally, with all the setup done, it was time to face Morgott, and this time I wasn't having any funny delayed attack business. Alright, Morgott, this is about to go stupid, dude. This is about to go absolutely dummy. Okay, great rune. Drink, Golden Bow, Chomp, more Chomp. Oh, Morgott. Morgott. This, if I did everything right, this should be a very fast kill. Margit Shackle. Wait. What'd I do wrong? Yeah, you forgot to dodge. Okay, let's try that again, but this time avoid the big explosion, shall we? Much better. Man, I can't even cheese right. This game is too hard, for real. Let's go! There we go. Okay, I was just being greedy. Okay, I just needed to back up there at the end. Look at you. So tiny. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. My blades are too strong.
Great game. Great stat. It's wonderful. Hello, Mother. Yes.
The thorns are in pen and guide you.
Nice. Alright, cool. The road medallion has been acquired. Indubitably. Taking Melena's offer and using the rolled medallion to head into the mountaintops, I am nearing the end of the game. Not too much to do here except grab the smithing bell bearing 3 and seppuku for even more bleed. I also fight Akina at the Church of Repose for the most infamous arcane weapon, the Rivers of Blood, which is nowhere near as good as it once was, but it's still nice to have. Now it was time to take on Fire Giant, who has an absolute truckload of health, which actually makes bleed even nicer. Bleed does percentage based damage, so the more health a boss has, the more it does. I decided to be a true ankle biter and just scratch at him like a little cat until he got mad and ripped off his leg. His second phase went just as well, getting an early bleed proc which really sped up the fight. He didn't like that and chose to use every ranged attack that he could. Finally, after some rolling around, he made the terrible mistake of body slamming the ground. This attack puts his eye right in front of me and everyone knows just how painful a scratch to the eye can be. With a perfect bleed proc to finish it off, the Fire Giant goes down in one try, making this honestly the easiest fight of the run so far. Let's go! Yeah. These things are stupid, bro. Oh my god, the bleed was insane. Once again talking to Melina at the forge, she puts me to sleep before sacrificing herself for me. I'll make you proud, don't you worry.
Goodbye.
Waking up in Chicago, I get ready to take on the worst fight in the game on a low vig playthrough. Taking no chances, I make some Diddy Mist and put both Godskins to sleep.
What?
The spiky balls make this fight so much better when you can just bleed and stagger them. My overwhelming power puts so much fear in the hearts of the Godskin that they make the mistake of trying to summon help, which gives me ample time for free damage. With the duo defeated, the rest of Farum-Azula is open. Meeting Alexander up here, he has me fight him knowing he would lose. This game just really tugs at your heartstrings, huh? His death gives me Alexander's Jar Shard, which boosts the damage of skills by 15% if needed. Having liked the jump build I used on Morgott, I thought I would do something similar for the goodest boy Maliketh. Grabbing the Scavenger's Curve Sword in Mount Gelmir, the Scimitar from the Round Table Hold, I got both of them to plus 24 and applied Occult Seppuku. This would basically proc bleed on every jump attack as the Power Stance Curve Swords hit 4 times on a jumping attack. Occult also grants crazy good physical damage, and when used with a weapon with innate bleed, it just makes them stupid strong. This trivialized Maliketh's first phase because a lot of the attacks could be jumped. The damage was substantial. Unlike the Iron Balls, however, he does not stagger as easily, so I would actually have to fight his second phase. And naturally, here on the Tuxie channel, you can't just have a smooth experience.
No, man. So close I threw there. Unlucky.
It did take me some time to learn and figure out the moves in his second phase, but after having fought him on this playthrough, I think I understand a fair share of his arsenal. Man, what a wonderful fight. Maliketh may not be very tanky, but the sheer amount of damage he does makes trading with him very hard. This puts an emphasis on positioning, as there are many attack windows that can be used, such as sitting underneath him when he slams his sword. Having to worry about the Destined Death Cyclone that would ultimately be a one-shot made it that much more interesting, as I couldn't get too greedy or else I would lose. Doing my best lore-accurate Tarnished impression, I flawlessly fight Maliketh without getting hit by Destined Death.
Let's go! He's dead! Woo! These things are nuts. Where am I? Oh god. What is this place? It's so dusty and everything's gone. Oh lord.
Having arrived in the Ashen capital, I do a little buffing routine before meeting up with Gideon, who goes on a long tangent about becoming Elden Lord, blah blah blah, he's dead. Gideon the All-Knowing did not know how to handle that. With the lesser Tarnished out of the way, it was time to face off against perhaps the strongest Tarnish, besides me of course. Humble, I know.
Long and hard.
What do you mean by that?
Yet again, another boss with very good jumping openings. I went back to the double curve swords for maximum sauce. Godfrey really is such a good fight. You can attack the boss in so many ways and none of them are wrong. He offers windows for jumping attacks. You can strafe his moves. He has a mix-up of both delayed and fast swings. I think that he resembles FromSoft at its best when it comes to making unique and challenging fights that offer many ways to overcome it. While this playthrough can eliminate a lot of the challenge due to the strength that Bleed has, the fight is still very fun and never really gets tiring. Hoarah offers a complete reverse to Godfrey, yet still keeps the fight extremely fair. A beautiful combination that shows just how good Elden Ring boss design really is. When I first played through Elden Ring, and even on subsequent playthroughs, I was always stuck on Godfrey, having given up and just resorting to Mimic Tier because I had this idea in my head that the power creep of the endgame is far too steep and takes away all the fun. However, since then, I have played through the game twice with no more than 20 vigor, and it has only made the game that much more enjoyable. Godfrey being one of the best examples of it. He has quickly become one of my favorite bosses in the game.
Nice. Oh, what a lucky stagger.
Having bested Godfrey, the final boss was now available, but I had some loose ends to clean up. With an entire DLC waiting to be explored, I thought it would be the appropriate time to face Mohg. Running through Mohgwyn's palace, I fought Vare to complete his quest and proceeded to watch him bleed out after being called maidenless all those times.
That's what you get for calling me maidenless.
He dropped Vare's bouquet, but I am not using that shit. It is horrible. It might be the worst weapon in the game. Regardless, it was now time for the man, the myth, the Mohg. He really did beat all those allegations, man. Bless up. There is only one correct way to fight Mohg, and it is to not fight him at all. Just let me cook, alright?
The birthplace of our dynasty.
No, sir. Alright. Great fight. Great fight, guys. That was... Mohg, no. Alright. A cold grave scythe, everybody.
So that was a fight of all time. See, the logical answer is to head into the DLC, but no, I don't think I will. Instead, this whole time I had forgotten about my dearest Ranni and her questline. Grabbing the Fingerslayer blade from Nokron, I return to Ranni and she gives me the Carrion inverted statue. Heading to the Carrion study hall, I use the statue and flip the entire place upside down. I don't know how that works, but it just does. At the top of the tower, I find the curse mark of death. Upon returning to Ranni, I take a warp to Ainsel River Main and stumble upon a doll. Like any sane person, I begin to have a full-fledged conversation with it. She tells me to handle her baleful shadow deep in the Ainsel River. If you are ever having trouble with this game, just defeat Mohg, as he drops his spear. The spear is effectively easy mode.
Beautifully fought.
Using the skill, the Shadow had no idea what to do and he dropped the discarded palace key. Past him is the Lake of Rot. It's very typical for FromSoft to include a poison swamp, but this is a poison swamp on crack. Getting past this hellscape, I hop into a suspicious coffin and take a plunge. At the bottom is one of the most beautiful areas in the game, superseded by an even better boss fight. How are you supposed to find this place normally though? No sane person is willfully slogging through the Lake of Rot. Behind the boss wall is Astel, one of the coolest designed bosses in the game. This cosmic anal bead feeds nightmares, but damn is he cool. Going into this fight, I didn't know that Astel could bleed, so I just fought him with the spiky balls, and they did their job, maybe a little too well. In just a few hits, I got a stagger, and without much thought, only bonk, Astel's health bar just disappeared.
Nice. Alright. There we go. Nice. Alright, Estelle's dead. That was... I'm super over leveled. Like, I sorta kind of forgot about this guy. I started Ranni's quest like at the start of the game and I just never came back. So...
Behind Astel is the Moonlight Altar. Remember when I said we had peaked fighting Draconic Tree Sentinel? I lied. This was it. Everything came to this. Putting on my best attire, it was time for me to pop the question. I didn't know that Elden Ring was a dating sim disguised as a Souls game. Venturing where no gamer has gone before and acquiring a wife, I felt way too out of my element, so I had to get back to the task at hand. Yet again, jumping all over the place, I decided a great honeymoon gift for Ranni was to kill her other brother, Rykard. Progressing through Volcano Manor, before I can fight Rykard, I must fight yet another Godskin noble. I take care of Fatty like you do all your problems, with drugs. YouTube, this is a joke. Kids, don't do drugs. With Noble down, I run through the rest of the manor before arriving at Rykard's chamber. See, I would use another weapon here, but the Serpent Hunter is right there, just calling to me, wanting to be used. With my trusty buckler ready to go, Rykard would be a walk in the park. Let me try that again. Alright, new attempt. Surely I won't get hit with a very hard move out of the gate.
Dude, how do you get... How? Like, if he does that, it's just death, bro.
After narrowly avoiding his bite not once but twice, surely this would be the run. Of course, his first phase is the simple hide behind shield and poke till stagger strat.
Let me not have an absolute skill issue, please.
Riveting, I know. Don't worry, his second phase isn't any better and the fight is relatively the same. Just use Serpent Hunter to perpetually stagger him into the same attack. I mean, not really much depth in a gimmick fight like Rykard to be honest, but it's okay, at least the fight looks awesome and is honestly just really fun. Not all bosses need to be hard to be enjoyable, you know?
Alright. There we go. Oh, wow. That could have been bad. Finally. There we go. Rykard is dead. Nice.
The same could not be said for the last and final Shardbearer, a boss I had been dreading forever, a boss that needs no introduction. And before we could get to her, a bit of journeying. First stop, Castle Sol. At the top of this place is Commander Niall, and when I first went to fight him, I thought I would try out Vare's Bouquet, and well...
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Yeah, I was not using that. I even tried using Bewitching Branches to make his goons fight him. Oh well. As I said before, Mohg's Spear is easy mode, and with such a large AoE attack, surely it would be more than enough. To think that with one press of a button the fight could be finished is actually insane. Mohg's Spear, everyone. Great weapon. Behind Niall is the second half of the Haligtree Medallion. Before getting to Malenia, I must fight Loretta, however. Not really much to say, except I suck at dodging her magic projectiles, and that Venomous Fang is really good, and the poison did more than enough to carry this fight. I would get poison on her in just a few hits, and from there just take whatever safe opportunities I had to get more damage in, thus slowly whittling her health bar down to 0. Finally, it was time to face the Reckoning, whatever her name is.
I am Malenia. blade of Mikola,
Hey, nice to meet you.
and I have never known defeat.
Oh, surely it won't be too bad, right? If I went through the footage and got every single death, I think it would be longer than this video itself. Malenia is the hardest boss fight in the game, bar none. My opinion will not be changed on this. I have fought Malenia about 3 times total, and 2 of those were with Mimic tier, so I knew this would be hard, but I also didn't know it would take 3 days. After proceeding to get skill issued for an eternity, I did develop a pretty good strategy by using an occult Nagakibo with impaling thrust. The speed and poise damage was enough to make the fight at least manageable, but I will tell you right now, I still do not know it at all. Don't even get me started on waterfowl. I had to resort to frost pots just to make sure I could just avoid it entirely. Perhaps one day I will learn how to dodge it consistently, but until then, frost pots are my beloved. Her phase 2 put phase 1 to absolute shame. Everything I knew about her passivity was out of the window, as she is absolutely unrelenting. I got a pretty good grasp of her moves, such as the clone attack, by the end of the fight, but man was this a learning curve. Honestly, it's such an insane accomplishment for me as someone who has never been super good at Elden Ring. As for her or consort Radahn, pre-nerf Radahn was hard because of the elevated difficulty that Mikola's light show gave off, and of course cross slash. However, I think while cross slash was absolutely unfair, it was one attack in an otherwise relatively easy move list. Malenia's moves are just harder in my opinion. I don't know, maybe with more practice I'll get a pretty good grasp of her, but now I'm curious, who was stronger, Prime Radahn or Prime Malenia? I mean, Malenia had to whip out a rot bomb just to win, so surely it was my boy Radahn.
Come on. Come on. No, no, I'm gonna get greedy here. That's what always happens. No. Oh no. Okay, just run away. Oh! Am I happen here? Am I happen here? Oh no. Run away. Please? Yes! Yeah! It's done. Oh my god. Dude. I had to resort to freezing pots, bro. Oh my god, I will never learn waterfowl. Oh. It's done. What a fight. Dude, impaling thrust is genuinely so good. Oh my god. Actually the best skill in the game, dude. It makes it so much more manageable. Oh my god. What a fight, dude. What a fight. Oh, it's done. Malenia is dead. We love Bleed. We love Arcane. I was so very wrong. With the whole DLC waiting to be explored, I returned to Mohg and grabbed a rotten arm to be teleported. Entering the DLC, my first order of business was to collect as many Scadutree fragments as I could find. With 34 being around the map and available before fighting any boss, my goal was to grab as many as I could. While exploring, I also stopped in Prospect Town for our first DLC weapon, the Bloodfiend's Arm, an absolute tank of a colossal weapon ready to cause havoc in the Land of Shadow. While near Prospect Town, I took a detour in Ballarat where I opened my way to the sewers and acquired yet another weapon, the Poison Hand. Before taking a Spirit Spring past Castle Ensis, I spoke with Thialier, who sells yet another poison weapon, the Perfume Bottles. After using the Spirit Spring, I got some more fragments as well as the two-handed sword talisman for more damage when, you guessed it, two-handing. Making my way to the church district and draining the bathwater, I got behind Shadow Keep to find our first remembrance boss, Commander Piggy. He is very resistant to bleed, which kind of goes against my entire build, so I decided to lean more on poison. For maximum efficiency, I returned to the Lake of Rot to grab the Mushroom Crown, which boosts damage when poison is in the area. Back at Mount Gelmir, I also grabbed the Kindred of Rot Exaltation after beating 2 Cumbugs. The Poison Hand is a fist weapon which shares the same moveset as the Iron Balls, making this a fight I already knew relatively well. The raw physical damage was pretty low, but with the added poison, Gaius' health bar was absolutely melting. It also melts poise, so obviously the staggers were plenty. With decent experience of fighting this boss with fist weapons, he really wasn't too bad, and after a pretty solid fight, I was able to defeat the first DLC boss, Commander Gaius. He is also a very generous fella and rewards 5 more Scadangle fragments for all my hard work. Let poison kill him. Let's go. There we go. Boar man is dead. Shout out poison for real.
After Gaius, I decided to head through Rao Ruins to face Romina. Check out this cool skip. Anyways, due to Romina's terrible poise, I wanted to use the Bloodfiend's arm, but before I could wield it, I would need to get the Starscourge heirloom from Caelid, which boosts strength by 5. The Romina fight was interesting, because the blood affinity only gives the weapon D arcane scaling. I wasn't doing enough damage to be able to get to her second phase off of just one stagger, so I would have to be safe or else the rot would absolutely destroy me. Okay, I know this looks bad, and yes, I did get greedy, but in my defense, I thought it would stagger her. I didn't know she got hyper armor through her phase transition. The best way I found to deal with this was with Bubble Tear allowing me to take one hit of the rot before I got out of the radius. This aside, the damage was actually insanely brain dead. Not only would I proc bleed on like 2 hits, but 2 heavy attacks were enough to stagger. I like the Romina fight, but man does it feel like her scaling is just way too low and a bit lackluster for a pan-ultimate boss. I also don't really think her moveset is that in-depth, and she has like 5 different spin attacks that can be dodged pretty simply. I do like that you can jump over the centipede for a punish though. That is a really cool interaction with the jump mechanics. To be honest, the fight does kind of show the highs and lows of the DLC. Some bosses are just absolute tanks, and some bosses have such low poise you can basically just cheese them in so many ways. Or maybe it's just the Bloodfiends aren't being that good. I don't really know.
Alright. Nice. There goes Romina. Bonk. Bonk. Cool.
Heading south through the Dragon's Pit, I took a plunge in a feeble attempt to find a copy of Bloodborne on PC, but instead ran into Ancient Dragon Man. I took care of him like I did most NPCs, by using Eleanor's Bloodblade and its skill. Behind Dragon Man, I made it to the beautiful Cerulean coast and further into the Stone Coffin Fissure. At the end of the dungeon is yet another really deep hole I jump down. This time I face an angry skeleton on a slug. He is immune to bleed, but there is a world where you can rot him. I wanted to use the Rotten Duelist Hammer as it does strike damage and can proc rot, which would be good for this fight. It wasn't.
Okay.
The damage was great, but the rot was non-existent. Instead of dealing with this appropriately by continuing to use it, I instead addressed the skill issue by running away. Defaulting to my beloved chicken wing, this fight was over before it started, and it once again proves to not try new things. I used to hate this fight, and I mean I still suck at it, but when you can just rely on a big hammer to do everything for you, it is pretty fun, I won't lie.
Nice.
Oh, Saint Trina, my beloved! Staying near the south, I decided to do some questing and blow the bellhorn in the Freaky Ruins. This progresses part of Ymir's quest where I have to blow 2 bells. The other one is in the north, but making it to the hinterlands, I had to take a quick reprieve in the Shaman village. Fine, I'll get back to what I was doing. Blowing the other horn, I get back to Ymir, and the sound of the bells made him feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
Simply exhilarating, I must say.
Reloading the church, Ymir is gone, so I take this opportunity to get a quick sniff before heading down to fight Anna. Maybe fight isn't the right word. With Metyr next, I didn't really know how I would fight her. She is very weak to bleed, and that makes it great for me. However, she also has some really janky attacks that on a low vig playthrough are absolutely deadly. I tried to use the claws, but the lack of poise made it very hard to stagger Metyr for big damage windows. It also didn't help I got lasered. You know what? I know how to handle this.
You were at my side all along, my guiding moonlight.
I know that everybody knows the Starfists are broken, but did you know that the Starfists are broken? I mean, the fight was so short I didn't even get to see her second phase. This truly is one of the boss fights of all time. I heavily underestimated the power of Arcane.
Wowzers! Starfists, everyone. Yay!
Moving on from the Finger Mummy, I decided to make a return to Belura and take on the Divine Furries. I didn't really have a plan of action for them as they are weak to fire and obviously Arcane gets no benefit from the fire affinity. However, they can bleed and are very weak to pierce damage. The best way I found to fight these guys is with Impaling Thrust as the skill leads with pierce damage, does crazy stance buildup as well as any status such as bleed. I am definitely seeing improvement in my fight with the lion, however I found myself still taking a hit every now and again. This fight was pretty good and I happened to get a super clutch bleed proc at the end to finish very quickly.
Let's go! I got greedy and it paid off. Dagger had to have been coming soon. Impaling Thrust, my beloved. I love you so much. Literally the best thing in the game. Oh, what would I ever do without you? It's so beautiful. Look at that thing. That was crazy.
After the lion was defeated, I took my natural path of progression, stopping to grab the Great Katana on the way to face off against Rellana and her twin moons. Falling back on a weapon I grabbed earlier, I decided to try out the poison perfume bottles. I don't know how they work. Like, I guess they are more of a debuff weapon as the attack doesn't do that much damage, but rather can apply poison really quickly. Or maybe it is a secondary weapon that you can use to proc poison on yourself for the kindred buffs. Regardless, I was a bit disappointed because the perfume bottles seem like one of the coolest new weapon types added to the DLC. For shits and giggles, apparently Rellana can be put to sleep. Thinking Thinking this would work like the Godskins, I made some sleep pots to see if I could use Mohg's spear as a catch-all weapon. First off, she can animation read every single one of your throws, so you have to wait for her to end a combo to actually get a throw off. That doesn't include the fact that she can attack very quickly and sometimes you won't be able to dodge afterwards. Also, she takes 2 sleep pots to actually get put to sleep, and it doesn't even behave like it does versus the Godskins, but rather puts her to sleep for about 1 whole second. Insane amount of time, to be honest. If I tried to use the spear without sleep pots, that too would not end well. Safe to say, Mohg's spear was not an option. Okay, that doesn't work either. You know what? I did grab the Great Katana earlier. That sounds like a plan. I'll be honest, I have fought Rellana many times, and yet I still have no idea how to fight her. I find her to be the hardest boss in the DLC for me. In my opinion, she's a beefier Malenia with more poise. I do like the fight, I just struggle greatly with understanding the proper way to actually face her. It also doesn't help I have like 45 frames in her arena at any given moment, which makes the fight even harder. My Great Katana was the answer to all my issues, and I thrust it all over her until she was defeated.
Let's go! Woo! Let's go! Impaling Thrust, my beloved! I will never doubt you, Impaling Thrust. You're my favorite.
Upon defeating Rellana, I used all my runes to buy crab. So much crab. I then returned to the church district to face off against the Sunflower. Rellana may be the hardest boss in the DLC for me, however the Sunflower might just be a close second. This run had me tested. You'd think I would be able to easily defeat a boss with very low strike resistance using the best weapon from the DLC. You are mistaken. I fought this guy for close to an hour before simply pursuing other avenues. On paper, the Sunflower is not that difficult. The moves are relatively telegraphed with pretty good punish openings to follow up. I struggle greatly with the timing of the thorns, and I just find him so awkward to fight. To add insult to injury, even if I got to his 3rd phase, the chances of me dodging his big nuke were close to none, and I would often mess up the timing and die. After attempting this fight for maybe 35 tries, I decided to return at a later time, or else it would have been another Malenia situation. Instead, I decided I would go elsewhere in Shadowkeep and fight my glorious king Messmer. If Sunflower took me over an hour and 35 tries just to move on, Messmer took me 10 minutes and less than 10 tries. I decided I wanted to return to the double curve swords, and to be honest, that might have been a mistake. Messmer doesn't have the best bleed resistance, but I didn't think I would be doing as much damage as I was. With how fast the bleed was being triggered, his health bar was just withering away. In his 2nd phase, he also takes increased damage in his snake form as it counts as a headshot, so this added to the insane numbers I was already seeing. I definitely think that Arcane is a stat that requires some setup, but once you get a build going and a decent amount of Arcane points, the damage is absurd. Obviously, I have 99 Arcane, and this game has soft and hard caps, but man is it still just so good. With not much time to really see the fight at all, Messmer was completely deleted and I could move on.
Nice. Wow. Bleed, everyone. Dude, that's insane. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Hopping from one twink to the next, I ventured through the catacombs where I had to fight Jory. If this were high school and Jory were the baddie you had a crush on, don't even bother trying to talk to her, cause we all know they got that one friend hanging around. Resorting to backstab looping to avoid having to deal with Fatty McFatface, I finally made it into the woods. Progressing through the abyss, making it past the worst Elden Ring enemies, I arrived at the haunted mansion deep in the forest. Ready to fight Midra, I had an idea come to mind. With Midra being weak to both slash damage and bleed, I wanted to use a weapon capable of both. At first, I used the hook claws and they were doing absolutely insane. I even got him to literal 1 HP before getting smacked.
I got greedy, dude. I thought I'd... Oh no, that's so unlucky. Look at that.
Instead, I decided to switch things up to the scythe. With Midra always opening with his madness attack, you can circle behind him for free damage. This was a perfect opportunity to use spinning strikes and just chunk damage. He would then do his phase transition where I would have to avoid it by running away, but as he was getting up, I could once again restart the move. The damage was great, but I wanted more. I needed more. Stopping in the shaded castle, I grabbed the recipe book to craft blood boil aromatics. These give a 30% damage buff to stack with my other buffs. This increase was everything I needed, and Midra was absolutely shredded. I mean, just look at that damage. I went from getting around 22,000 in his opening to about 26,000, a 4,000 damage increase off of just one item. I did have to dodge once, so sadly I couldn't just hold L2 and win. Honestly, pretty bad game design. I should be able to do that.
Let's go! Woo! Oh my gosh. Dude, the missing link was blood boil. Oh, that's a beautiful, dude. That's insane.
Feeling way too powerful for my own good, I decided to take a crack at the Sunflower again. However, a bit of an issue. You know what? I'll just let my past self explain.
I know it sounds like an excuse, but I kid you not, I just beat Avatar, and I forgot to press the record button because I stopped recording before fighting him because I went to go do something for like 10 minutes. I came back, immediately went to the fight, and I wasn't even thinking. I had been on this fight for so long, I just wanted to get it done, and I completely forgot to press the record button. Yeah, sorry about that. Small creator mistakes, am I right? Moving on from that blunder, with 2 bosses of the DLC left to defeat, it was only a matter of time before I had to take on the dragon I dreaded most. Making my way to the top of the jagged peak, I wholeheartedly expected another incident. Good news, that didn't really happen. As always, Egon the Glorious made a return because I have no shame in summoning him. His hate is just too spiteful, and I completely agree with everything he has to say. I still don't like Bayle. This time, I didn't really have any crazy moments fighting Bayle, and the fight went much smoother than other times. Maybe, just maybe, I'm actually starting to improve at this game. Nah, it can't be. Bleed is just too good. With Bayle's weakness to pierce damage, I once again crutched on Impaling Thrust because I am bad. I will say Bayle is very generous whenever he gets staggered. The amount of time spent on the ground for free damage is pretty crazy and really helped whenever a bleed proc was close. Bayle clearly wasn't enjoying the fight because the sheer amount of stall I experienced was pretty tiresome. First, he decided to fly away and then slam on the ground. Then he decided to fly away again and breathe fire all over the arena. The final third of his health bar took longer to deplete than the first 2/3 combined. To be fair, his second phase does introduce some more attacks that involve him flying because, you know, he kind of just sprouts wings when he transitions. It's still really cool, don't get me wrong, it's just crazy. Before long, I didn't even realize how low his health bar was, and I just had to let Egon get the final few hits. Only fair for a man as hateful as he. Let's go, Egon! Get him! Get him, buddy! Yeah! Let's go! Oh my god, he's my goat, dude! Oh, Bayle, you're defeated! Egon the Glorious! Egon! You know, if I had a nickel for every active tree arson I did, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that I haven't twice. Entering Enir Elam, it was almost time to fight Radahn, but before I could, I would have to do the wonderful NPC fight just beforehand. The only correct way to handle this situation is by not fighting them at all. Giant Hunt basically makes this a one-sided affair, and before long, it was over. This would be my first time fighting Radahn after the patch, where he was nerfed yet again. Bro was really too strong for his own good, he had to be nerfed twice. I will say the changes to him were very welcome. The biggest and most obvious change was the nerf to cross slash, and oh boy, was it a nerf. Now that the attack comes out much slower, there are many more attacks that you can punish without having to worry about it. It also helps that you don't have to lick his right knee just for a chance to avoid it. Instead, you can now dodge both swings safely, a very, very nice change. They also made a change to his Blood Flame attack, allowing you to get another hit in as he recovers from it. My experience with Radahn was greatly improved, and while I found the fight to be a bit overtuned, now the fight feels just right. Obviously, people are going to complain and say that he didn't need a nerf, however, I disagree. His first phase was very good, even before the changes, however now it is near perfect. Before, a big uptick in difficulty came from Mikola's light show throughout all of phase 2. They also nerfed this, and oh my goodness, you can actually see what you're doing now. It's genuinely the greatest thing I've ever seen. Except Mikola still didn't get a haircut, so that doesn't help that much. But you know what? It's fine. We win some, we lose some. Genuinely great changes all around, and I think it proves more that Radahn was overtuned to even From Software standards that they ended up having to nerf him about 2 months late, but you know what? Things came, okay? It's fine. This fight is actually really fun now, and while it can still pose a bit of a challenge as there are still tight dodge windows, it is far less punishing. While yes, I did use bleed and it was chunking for a lot of damage, it still feels really good to actually fight him. I mean, there is no better feeling than dodging his combos and feeling like an actual god afterwards. If you really want a fun experience, try to fight him at low vig, and it really does teach you where you can punish and how to dodge his moves more than just eating whatever attack he throws at you. To be honest, this goes for any boss, but it's really fun against Radahn personally. Of course, I was on pace for a perfect run, except I can't ever have nice things, and I took 1 hit to the random light attack from his big AoE attack, which also got nerfed by the way. No longer do you have to run to the other side of the map to avoid it, but rather just about halfway through the arena. We love that, really. Overall, great changes to Radahn, and yeah, bleed is still too good, so he went down very quickly. Let's go! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo! We weren't done just yet because I had one final boss to close off the run. Radahn is immune to bleed, so he effectively counters every single weapon in my arsenal.
but he isn't immune to fat damage. Giving the spiky balls one last rip, Godfrey's boyfriend didn't stand a chance. Radahn is a great final boss of the game. He is everything that Elden Ring led up to, and you can really just see it. He offers great mix-up, fun and engaging mechanics, and is honestly just a really cool fight. He is a bit easy, especially when my balls smack him around, but that doesn't take away the fun. If only this was the true final boss and there wasn't a giant space slug waiting around to take this fight from S tier to like low B tier. I get it now. Elden Beast is bad, or at least not very engaging. Even after being able to use Torrent, the sheer amount of running away this goober does is unbelievable. Oh, and Elden Stars. Just Elden Stars. I mean, at least the fight is beautiful. Nothing like a giant space monster flying through the air wielding a former god's spine as a weapon. Sadly for the Elden Beast, no amount of running could keep me away from my destiny. The sheer power of Bayle was too much to handle, and it was only a matter of time before the space slug met its end. Crazy the things you can do when a princess offers you 1,000 years of marriage.
Let's go! Oh my goodness, dude. Stop running. Okay, now I get what people mean by Elden Stars sucks, because like, yeah, it sucks, dude. Like, even with Torrent, it's just like, okay, time to run.
If you enjoyed, consider checking out one of the other stat runs on your screen now. Thanks for watching, catch you later.